Hi friends, excuse the very casual intro, but I've got my little baby here. She's not quite a week old, and I'm starting to feel fairly human again. So I wanted to show you how I make our Irish Christmas cake every year. We actually had it for our wedding cake as well, and our anniversary is November 28th. So it was right around holiday time back then too, and we always have this Irish Christmas cake, and the um, inspiration is from the song Miss Fogarty's Christmas Cake. And so there's plums and prunes and cherries and citrons and raisins and cinnamon too. There's nutmegs, cloves, and berries, and a crust that was nailed on with glue. I would say there's caraway seeds in abundance, but there's not. And if you eat too much, it will build up a fine stomachache. It would kill a man twice after eating a slice of Miss Fogarty's Christmas cake. It's a very rich fruit cake and soaked in Irish whiskey, and each of our kids gets a little slice on Christmas Eve right before bedtime, and it's great. Excuse the splice there. We had some kids needing mom's help. So as I was saying, it's great to have just a little slice on Christmas Eve, and then Dad and I definitely polish off the rest. So it makes for a very Merry Christmas indeed. So I'm going to take you through the prep ahead of time, how to make your Irish whiskey soaked fruits and nuts, and then I'll take you through the baking. And I'm doing it kind of the easy way this time, using a boxed cake mix. However, you can absolutely use any white or yellow cake recipe that you like. You'll just have to change the liquids. So, yeah, I'll show you how to make the fruits first. Now, I do the fruits like a year or two or even 3 in advance. I made a huge batch 3 years ago, and then I was able to use it this year, last year, and then whatever the year prior to. As long as you give it at least like a month or so, then it's good. So, yeah. I have here a variety of nuts and fruits, all dried fruits. I've got cashews and pecans, and I've got walnuts over a little ways over to the right hand side there too. I'm going to start by just opening these things up and dumping them in a bowl. I, in the past, have dumped them straight into the jars, but then the problem is if I'm going to make a smaller cake, then everything is in layers. So I find that it's easier to go ahead and dump it all into a mixing bowl and mix it up first, and then put it into wide mouth quart jars. So I've got cashews in there right now, and next we're going for the pecans. There's not really a specific amount that you're going to do. You kind of have to do it to taste. If you prefer more nuts in the fruitcake, then do more nuts. If you prefer fewer nuts, then do fewer nuts. I've got about half a container of raisins here, banging them up so that they are nice and loose. Add my raisins. You can add golden raisins if you like, cranberries if you like, whatever dried fruit you like. It all takes up the flavor of the whiskey anyway. Here I'm adding a package of dried blueberries. And now some cherries, and I'll actually save a few cherries out because my kids like to eat the dried cherries, and they saw them when they came in on the groceries, so I wanted to make sure I saved a few for them. They also ended up wanting to have some of the dried pineapple. There, I found my walnuts, so we'll add our walnuts in now. I save a little bit of these too because the kids like to snack on them. Adding in some pineapple. The kids later saw that I had put pineapple in and wanted some. And now the prunes. Yep. If you have whole prunes, just be aware that that is going to be a very rich bite when you soak it in whiskey, because it's a nice big thick piece of just very sugary, very whiskey filled fruit. I'll put about half of these into my bowl. So here I'm going to mix it up, and my video cut out before I could show my loading them into my wide mouth quart jars. So you'll just have to trust me that that's what I did next. Then I added spices. I added ginger, nutmeg, cloves, and cinnamon. Mostly cinnamon, but a little bit of each spice. And last, I'm going to be pouring in some Jameson Irish whiskey all the way to the top of the fruit and nut mix. Then we'll shake it to get the spices mixed up, and it'll be ready to put a lid on and store just at room temp for as long as you want. Like I said, the ones I used in this recipe were from 3 years ago. Now we're going to go ahead and start mixing up our cake. I've got 3 farm fresh eggs from my backyard. The box cake mix actually calls for 5 egg whites, so 3 eggs is pretty good. Your whiskey soaked fruit is going to have a lot of liquid in it, so most of the liquid you're actually going to be leaving out, and you may want to have a little extra flour on hand just in case it's too gummy. So I've got my 3 eggs in here, and I'm going to mix them up before we add all of the other stuff. You can use boxed white or yellow cake mix. You can also use a spice cake mix. It calls for some oil, so I just added a little bit of oil, not quite the full amount. If you don't want to use a box cake mix, you can use the dry ingredients from your favorite white or yellow cake mix or cake recipe from whatever recipes you enjoy. But you're going to have to adjust the liquid part because, like I said, there's a lot of liquid in the fruit. Here I'm adding some cinnamon, cloves, and ginger. I'm going to be adding almost an entire quart of whiskey soaked fruit. This is from 3 years ago. Now I'm going to butter and flour the pans so that it doesn't stick too bad. I follow the box recipe for baking, which was about 35 minutes at 375, but you may need to add a few extra minutes if your cake is a little bit more liquidy. And no, that's not burnt on the top. That's just what the caramelized color looks like when it comes out of the oven. Now I'm pouring the Jameson into the Christmas cakes. You want them saturated but not swimming in Jameson. You want them to be able to be completely preserved by the whiskey and a cool environment. I cover mine with plastic wrap so that nothing can fall into it in the refrigerator and air doesn't get to it. I like to press down a little bit so that the whiskey kind of soaks up to the top. And then off to the fridge. So after the cakes are soaked with whiskey and covered with plastic wrap, I stick mine in the refrigerator. If you have a really cool and dark spot that you want to use that's not your fridge, that's totally fine. You can do that too. But I stick mine in the fridge. Just makes it easier. And to serve on Christmas Eve, we take it out and let it come back up to room temp. And just give everybody one little slice. The kiddos get a small slice. 1 year, my second kiddo got a prune in his, and I'll tell you what, the prunes soak up a lot of that whiskey. He was only able to eat part of the prune before he said that he was done. So it's more of an adult treat, but we give him a little bit. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed seeing this little one. Her name is Rose, and yeah, enjoy. If this is your first video on my channel, check out the other ones and subscribe if you like it, or click the like button. Give me a comment, and we'll talk at you soon. God bless.